My heart aches and drowsy numbness pains my sense, as though of hemlock had I drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed and leathward had sunk. Taste not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness, that thou, the light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beechen green, singest of the summer in full-throated ease. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the new video of mine with a new lecture on a new topic, and the lines that I've just recited before you, they are from one of the famous odes of John Keats named Ode to a Nightingale, Ode to the Nightingale, and this is the opening stanza of that particular ode by John Keats, great John Keats. So the very opening stanza of the ode to a nightingale, you might have got the idea, you might have understood that what my video would be concerned with, what would be today's topic of my video, topic of my lecture in today's video. So surely the topic is related to John Keats. What's the topic that would be related to John Keats? Topic is Keats as a pure poet. Keats as a pure poet. Many of the people often discuss John Keats' sensuousness, John Keats as a poet of beauty. Very few people discuss John Keats as a pure poet. So I selected the topic which is less discussed about John Keats, which is Keats as a pure poet. So before going into details about this particular topic, John Keats as a pure poet, let me give a brief introduction to John Keats. John Keats was also, like P.B. Shelley, was a 19th century romantic poet. Like P.B. Shelley, he belonged to the later generation of the 19th century romantic poetry or the romantic poets. And in romantic age, John Keats produced some of the beautiful poems, right, in English literature, in English poetry, and some of his best poems are Ode to the Nightingale, Ode to Autumn, Ode on Grecian Urn, Ode on Melancholy, Ode to Psyche, and some of the other poems. Keats is best known for his odes. So odes are his best type of poetry that he produced during his lifetime. Unfortunately, Keats died early due to tuberculosis, due to TB. So this was a sort of a brief introduction about John Keats, who John Keats was and which age he belonged to and what type of poetry he produced and what he is famous for in poetry. Let's have an introduction to the topic, Keats as a pure poet. Keats, like all the great poets, is concerned with beauty in the writing of his poetry, right? In the writing of his poetry, John Keats is mostly concerned with beauty. All the poets, not to speak of only Keats, all the poets like John Milton, William Wordsworth, P.B. Shelley, William Shakespeare, all these great names in English literature, all of them, they talked about beauty in their poetry, presented beauty, they were in search of beauty during their lifetime and they talked about that in their poetry. Same is true of John Keats. John Keats is also concerned with beauty in the world of his poetry. He was completely lost, he was completely absorbed in the concept of beauty, right? He was in search of beauty in all its forms, in all its shapes, whether it is there in a natural object, whether it is there in an artistic piece, whether it is there in some other concept, in some personality, right, some human being, in the face of human being, in a natural object, in anything, natural phenomenon. He was concerned with beauty, right? He was not concerned with anything else. His purpose was to write poetry only about beauty. So this also makes him a pure poet. That is, concern was only with beauty and nothing else. His purpose behind the writing of his poetry was not political one. It was not social one. It was not moral one. He doesn't want to preach any political ideal, any social concept, any idea, any morality through the writing of his poetry. His purpose was just to talk about beauty and nothing else but beauty in his poetry. In other words, his purpose was to write poetry and nothing else but poetry. His purpose was to create poetry for the sake of poetry, art for the sake of art. He had no agenda, no philosophy, no purpose, no design, no moral aim behind his poetry. This makes him a pure poet. So you might have got the concept of a pure poet. John Keats is a pure poet. It means that John Keats as a pure poet means that Keats' sole concern, sole purpose was to create poetry for the sake of poetry, right? To create art for the sake of art, to create poetry for the sake of poetry. He never thought of preaching any morality, any social aim, any social ideal, any political ideal through his poetry. His purpose was to create poetry for the sake of poetry. His purpose was to write poetry for the sake of poetry. So he was in that sense a pure poet whose sole concern was writing pure poetry, minus of any social, political, moral, religious purpose behind it. His purpose was to create poetry. His purpose was not to use poetry as a tool to propagate, to preach certain ideals, to propagate, to preach certain ideals through his poetry. Right? Here we can compare John Keats with William Shakespeare. Here Keats can be compared with William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare's sole purpose was to create art for the sake of art. He never preaches any kind of morality, any kind of social aim, any kind of political ideals, any kind of ideas, right? His purpose was to create poetry and drama for the sake of art, for the sake of drama, for the sake of poetry. He never preached any kind of morality, any philosophy, any social ideals, any moral purposes, any design through his dramas or through his poetry. So here Keats stands with William Shakespeare, because William Shakespeare believed in pure art in the same way Keats believed in pure art as well, which is why John Keats is called as a pure poet. So this is introduction to the topic. Let's move on to the point number 1, aspect number 1 of the topic, Keats as a pure poet. And point number 1 is Keats' concept of poet and poetry. Keats' concept of poet and poetry also shows that Keats is a pure poet, right? Keats' perception about the poet, Keats, idea about the poet and poetry also reflects that Keats is a pure poet. Keats is a pure poet, right? For example, there are many letters that are written by John Keats to different friends, different relations, different acquaintances, and in all these letters he expressed his views about poet and poetry. And those views about poet and poetry prove that John Keats is a pure poet. Because through those views related to poet and poetry, he shows the function of poet and poetry. He believes that the function of a poet is to create pure poetry. His function is not to use poetry as a tool to propagate ideas, thoughts, feelings and emotions. Some related to some political ideals, related to some moral purpose, related to some design, related to some social aim or anything like this, right? He believes that the job of the poet is to create poetry for the sake of poetry, right? There is a letter that he wrote to William Hazlitt. There is a letter that he wrote to Woodhouse, right? In all these letters, he expressed his concept of poet and poetry. For example, in one such letters, he said that poet is nothing. Poet is nobody. Poet has no identity. He has no personality. He has no self. He is to fill some other body, right? He is nobody, still he is everybody. He is nothing, still he is everything. He is to fill some other body, right? This concept, this comment, this idea of John Keats in one of the letters, brings in my mind another view of John Keats in my mind. And that view is, John Keats once said that if a sparrow comes before my window, I take part into its existence and pick about the gravel. I repeat, if a sparrow comes before my window, I take part into its existence and pick about the gravel. It means that if I am sitting in my window, John Keats says, if I am sitting in my window and suddenly there comes a sparrow, a bird, and sits on the ground and start picking, food from the ground. And I observe this bird, sparrow, so closely that I completely lose myself in that sparrow. And I forget about myself. And I become that sparrow. I feel that I am that sparrow and I am picking those, pieces of food from the ground. So this shows that Keats believes that poet has no identity. Over here, Keats lost his identity and adopted the identity of the sparrow. He became sparrow, right? So he believes that this is the job of the poet. This is his concept of poet, that poet has no identity. Poet is nobody. He is to fill some other body. Over here, Keats filled the body of sparrow and became one with sparrow. This concept, this idea of John Keats about poet brings in my mind one of the famous couplets of Urdu, which says, Ranja Ranja Kardi mein Ape Ranja hoi. Ranja Ranja Kardi mein Ape Ranja hoi. Ranja Akho Sakhyo Heer na kave koi. It is Punjabi couplet. Correction, it's a Punjabi couplet. So, Ranja Ranja Kardi mein Ape Ranja hoi. Ranja Akho Sakhyo Heer na kave koi. So, over here, Heer forgets about her identity and becomes Ranja. becomes one with Ranja. This is the job of the poet, Keats says, right? And there is another poet who says in a beautiful couplet that अच्छा खासा बैठे बैठे गुम हो जाता हूँ, मैं अब अक्सर मैं नहीं रहता तुम हो जाता हूँ. This is the job of the poet, that he should forget about his own personality. He should become the thing that he creates in his poetry. This is the job of the poet. This is what John Keats says about the function of. So when the poet would do this, right, then he would perform the function of a pure poet. He should forget about his own likes and dislikes, his own moral purposes, his own moral aims, his own social aims, his own religious aims while writing poetry. He should completely minus his personality, minus his moral purpose, religious, social aims while writing his poetry. Then he would become a pure poet. Then he will create pure poetry. So this is the function of the poet. This is the concept of poet that John Keats presented in one of the letters to one of the acquaintances, one of the friends. Then he also gives his concept of poetry, right? He says that great poetry has no palpable design upon us. Great poetry has no palpable design upon us. Palpable mean noticeable, palpable mean prominent, and design mean purpose, aim, morality, social aim, religious aim, moral aim, any type of aim, right? Great poetry has no prominent purpose behind it, right? Great poetry is not concerned with morality, moral correction of the readers, social corrections, social reformation, propagation of religious ideas, bringing people back to the path of religion. It has no such purpose. It has only one purpose, that is art, creation of art for the sake of art, creation of poetry for the sake of poetry. So this is one of the chiefest aspects of John Keats as a pure poet, right? And this point is Keats' concept of poet and poetry. I hope you got the point. Let's move on to the next point. Next point that is related to the topic Keats as a pure poet is Keats' lack of interest in local and world affairs. Keats' lack of interest in local and world affairs. This also shows Keats as a pure poet. This point also proves Keats as a pure poet. That Keats is completely unconcerned with local and worldly affairs. Whether they are local affairs, whether these local and worldly affairs are related to politics, related to religion, related to society, related to morality, or anything like this. Keats is completely disinterested, uninterested in social issues and worldly issues. In the times of John Keats, or just before the times of John Keats, there happened a big event in Europe, in France, and that big event was French Revolution. French Revolution broke out in France, erupted in France in 1789. It really brought a big change in France. It also, changed the mentality of the English culture, English people, English nation as well. And romantics, 19th century romantics, to which John Keats belongs to, right? They also came under the influence of this French Revolution. William Wordsworth, Coleridge, Southey, Byron, Shelley, all of them, they were affected and deeply influenced by this French Revolution, and they expressed this influence through their poetry. Right? Especially P.B. Shelley is called a revolutionary poet. Why he became a revolutionary poet? Under the influence of French Revolution. But John Keats remains completely uninfluenced, untouched by this French Revolution. Why? Because he's a pure poet. His purpose is not to talk about French Revolution or ideals of French Revolution, or Rousseau, who became the cause of French Revolution in France, right? His purpose is to create art for the sake of art, to create poetry for the sake of poetry. He was a poet to the core, whose purpose was to create poetry for the sake of poetry. He was a poet to the core of his heart, to the core of his personality, to the core of his soul and spirit. This view he expresses in one of his letters to one of his acquaintances, one of the friends, that he is a core poet. He is a poet to the core. It means that John Keats in one of the letters said that that he cannot spend even a single day without poetry. Poetry is his life. Poetry is his breath and soul. He cannot move with life. He cannot, pass his life, even a single moment of his life, without poetry. So this shows that John Keats is a poet, and a pure poet, who is completely unconcerned with local affairs and worldly affairs, whether they are related to French Revolution or politics or religion or morality or society. John Keats is completely unconcerned about all these things. So this is another important aspect of John Keats as a pure poet, which gives him the status of a pure poet in 19th century Romantic age. And this point is Keats' lack of interest in local and worldly affairs. So this is part number 1 of my today's video and today's lecture. Part number 2 will be presented before you, uploaded on YouTube, inshallah, tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Wait for part number 2 of this video. And before closing, I must say that subscribe to my channel, Netless Han 1980, and press the bell icon so that you can receive my latest lectures on different literary topics and other things, some other videos for the sake of entertainment of my audience, for the sake of entertainment of my viewers. Right, I make videos based upon nature, based upon rivers, based upon mountains, with my kids, with my nephews. So they are also for the sort of a entertainment, a sort of a comic relief in between the lectures. So this is it for today. Thank you very much.